I screwed it up again. I screwed it up again. What a character. What a character I am. Always messing with things, always messing it up. Sounds back. We're good. Sounds now. Wonderful. Good to see you, Eric. Hope you're doing well out there, my man. Good to see you, looking to see. I can always rely on you guys to come in early and let me know when I'm messing up. When I'm messing up the show. Hope you guys are doing well out there. I am exhausted. For obvious reasons. Did you guys know? Did you guys know that the Liberal Party and the Conservatives and the NDP and the Greens all stood up in our parliament and decided to simultaneously, all at once, give a round of applause to a literal Nazi? Do you guys know? Like, I have to be honest. I'm having like a little kind of like vindication moment. Like, when I made that video this morning and put it up, there was like this little part of me that just wanted to make the whole video about how I told you so. I told you so. Like I told you guys. Like I've been saying this all along. I've been saying it for years. I've been saying it this whole time, right? Like we are going to see Nazi salutes in the Ukrainian parliament, and this is the next best thing. This isn't Nazi salutes in our parliament, but it's like the next best thing. Like, or the next worst thing, I suppose. Like, really, really think about how it would be possible for this to have happened accidentally. Like, really think about how it could have been the case at all for this to have happened accidentally. And the moment you realize how the vetting process actually works, how the process of setting something like this up. I love this photo, by the way. This is a beautiful photo. Absolutely stunning photo. Once you really realize, we've got a fellow named Potato Thief 666, well done, sir, on Twitch, saying Marx reincarnated. That's a very kind thing for you to say, my friend. If I could get 1/10 of the power of Karl Marx, then I would consider myself a lucky man. We are talking about how our parliament here in Canada decided to honor a Nazi. They definitely knew it was a Nazi. He was a Nazi. The woman right here, her name is Chrystia Freeland, right? She's the deputy prime minister. She's the second in charge. If Justin Trudeau suddenly dies, she's the one who takes power. She is of Ukrainian descent. She is of Ukrainian descent, and she is her grandfather was a Nazi collaborator. He worked in the propaganda system in Ukraine, spreading misinformation on behalf of Goebbels and the Nazis. And so there is absolutely no way that this woman did not understand that that man was a Nazi. When Ku Klux Canucks. Yeah, what Nazi thing? There was no Nazi thing. That's Russian propaganda. That's Russian propaganda, that's what. This man right here, you might be familiar with who this man is. His name is Zelensky, right? He's the leader of Ukraine. There is absolutely no chance that this guy does not know that that man was a Nazi. When you watch the video, I got to show this video. It's so great. It's so great. This is my absolute favorite video of all of this.
We have here in the chamber today a literal Nazi. His name is Yaroslav Hunka, a Waffen SS soldier who pledged allegiance to Hitler, fought against our allies in the Soviet Union, and was complicit in the Holocaust. This man's a criminal. Not a great look for us.
Oh, you can't hear it? What a bummer. What a bummer. I gotta look into my audio. I'll get this all figured out one day. I'm just one man trying his heart out. All right, no point keeping that. Like, in a way, I feel like I have, like, there are people in my life who I have been talking to about this very issue for a long time. People who have, like, literally said to me, John, I'm concerned for your mental health. John, I'm concerned that you're saying all of these crazy things. You're saying all of these crazy things and these nutty things. You're saying all this stuff. You're talking about Nazis in Ukraine and the CIA, and oh my God, we're super concerned. I'm super concerned about you, John, and maybe you should go see a doctor. Eat it. Like, eat it. Eat it. Eat it 100%. Eat it every single path of the way. Eat it all the way down, up and down and all around. Vindication, if there ever has been vindication. And I knew this moment would come. That's the best part. Like, I knew this moment or a moment like it was going to come. It was the same thing that happened with Donald Trump. That when Obama was in office, I was saying, like, yep, some crazy shit's about to happen. Like, I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but, like, it's not going to be sunshine and roses. It's not going to be lovely Obama years, right? It's not going to be this wonderful Obama time. And what did we end up with? We ended up with fucking Donald Trump. And when Donald Trump rose to power and came into power, a lot of those people who were hand-waving me away suddenly were saying, oh, hey, John, what's up? What's up? Can I get your opinion? Can I get your thoughts? Here you go. Here's another little moment. And this is a moment that we should be bringing up every single chance we have. Like, the Liberal Party is now like a Nazi collaborating party, right? Like, we don't need to, like, and it's not even hyperbolic to say so. It's not even hyperbolic to say so. They literally honored a Nazi in the parliament, and they knew that they did it. They, like, knew what they were doing. There's even, we even have information about how this fellow met beforehand. I didn't have time to look into Project 2025. I'm going to do that tonight. Project 2025, for those of you who don't know, is the document and the project of the right wing of the capitalist system in America. And I started to watch the video that you guys have up on the Discord, and I'm definitely going to watch it. And it sounds pretty straightforwardly like, yep, this is the plan that it's always been the plan, right? Like, it's always been the plan. It's just now we're having people actually sit down and be like, okay, here's the plan. And, like, rather than it being a person being like, okay, I've got articles from the Wall Street Journal, I've got this think tank over here, and I've got this organization here, and they're all saying this, and we can put together kind of a thing. Now the right has finally just put together its own document, and we're just looking at it, and they're just saying it out loud now, right? They're just saying it out loud now. That it's no but they were always saying it out loud, right? They were always saying it out loud. So, like, my perspective of something like Project 2025 is that it's going to be unsurprising. It will be useful. It'll be useful for us to look at, and useful for us to show, and useful for us to be like, hey, but for those of us who have been doing this work for a long time, there will be no surprises. We will very much be like, yep, there it is. And the truth is that they've always been saying it out loud. It's just that the populace has never really wanted to believe it. Right? It's that the populace has never been like, no, they would never do that. They would never privatize the healthcare system and then let people who need insulin die. right? They would never purposefully privatize homeless shelter systems in order to throw people out on the streets. Like, there's always been this sort of sense of like, come on, basic humanity. And we can now say like, no, there's no basic humanity in these people, right? Zadov says, dude, what a Soviet Union with Stalin. Interesting comment, my man. Interesting comment. So I feel like I'm definitely going to look into Project 2025. I'm going to get the PDF of it. I'll take a look at it myself, and it'll be a useful tool for us to point at in order to be like, hey, all of that shit that we've been saying this entire time about these guys, they are now just saying it out loud, right? I mean, I should just show you guys in the Discord. Like, my Discord has brought it up like a half hour before I was going to start streaming. And so here's a great video. Here, let's just... I really do think this is important, but it's probably something I'm going to talk about. Shush. It's something I'm going to talk about more tomorrow, I'm sure. There's this video from The Conservative Plan to Take Over the Country. You need to know this. Leisha Miller. And then also... the document itself, right? Project2025.org, building now for a conservative victory through policy, personnel, and training. And you can take a look at their playbook. Yeah, they'll send you a PDF. Like, they'll send you a PDF, and so it's like they're just saying the quiet part out loud, like, and we all knew. Any word against the party will break the human system. I don't know what you're talking about, Zedov. People in Twitch say the darndest things, I say. And Midnight Rose, good to see you. Yeah, radio, yeah. Look at the smile on Freeland's face. Like, she knows. She knows what she's doing. She understands. Like, this woman is a Nazi. Like, she's a Nazi. Like, she's not a Nazi sympathizer, right? Like, she's a woman who understands what the objectives of the Nazi party are, and she says that is good. That's this person, and she's the second in charge of the Liberal Party. Like, this act right here puts the Liberals squarely on the far right. Squarely. Like, they are the furthest right party in the country. They're further than the PPC now. That it is the Liberals, and then the PPC, and then the Conservatives, and then the NDP. That is the configuration of the party system now. And I mean, and they're all basically fairly far right parties in the first place, right? They all support the Ukrainian war. They all support like, you can't really vote against the Ukrainian war in Canada. It's crazy. Oh, is that off? I just don't think you know anything about communism. It's very straightforward. You're just, all you've done is listen to Jordan Peterson, and you don't know the first thing about the subject. Like, it's just kind of embarrassing, my man. Midnight Rose writes, my favorite thing is the one senator saying, yeah, he was a Nazi. Oops. But support Ukraine and fight Russian propaganda and disinformation. No, that wasn't a senator. The prime minister himself said that. The prime minister himself said that. He was asked straightforwardly about this moment, and he was like, unfortunate moment that it's all the speaker's fault, of course. And that's the strategy, is for the speaker to fall on his sword, right? And that's what he's done, basically, is that he's fallen on his sword about all of this, right? But near as I can tell, if you actually watch the video, and I kind of highlighted it in the video that I put up, if you actually watch the video, when he read the document, I don't think he knew. I don't think he knew what was about to happen. I think he read the document, and then when he saw that it was, he fought the Russians in World War II, right? There was like this pause and like an eyebrow raise. Like, I think he completely knew what was happening when it was happening. But I don't think he knew beforehand. He just got completely blindsided by the information. And then he goes to the back, and they just basically say to him, yeah, fall on your sword, right? Time to fall on your sword, man. And so he does. And then he's going to retire in like some beautiful in some beautiful location, have like a 6-figure salary, right? Thank you for your service, right? Thank you for falling on your sword on behalf of the Nazi Party, which the liberals now are, right? And it's not even hyperbolic to say. Like, it's insane. It's completely insane that, and they did this while Zelensky was in the room. If this is anything, the only thing that this can be is a clear signal to the Ukrainian military, to the Nazis in Ukraine, right? That we are going to do everything we possibly can, and we're going to get more outrageous, and we're going to get more lunatic level to ensure that you keep getting weapons from us, and you keep getting arms from us. Like, it's crazy what's going on. Lou, good to see you. Yeah, now we have Nazis walking the halls of Parliament. It was only a matter of time. Yeah, straight up. Eric writes, I actually believe that if PP was in power and Liberal were the opposition, the situation would have happened anyway, of course. Like, the reason why this situation happens is because the Liberals know they're about to lose. Yeah, exactly, dude. Exactly. I got that right here. Twin Tower enjoyer, basically. There's no Nazis in Ukraine. Well, maybe there's a few. Well, okay, a lot. But they're on our side. And the Waffen-SS wasn't so bad. Yeah, like, it's... Like, why are we supposed to abide by this government? Like, why are we supposed to follow the rules of this government? Why are we supposed to participate in this crazy society? Right? Why are we supposed to believe in this society at all? Content, how you doing, my man? Good to see you. Like, this is a clown society at this point. We're clown people. There are no rules. You don't need to abide by any of these rules. Like, what rules? What are you talking about? Like, I would assume that any party that was actually interested in rational thinking or acting, not like a bunch of creepy fucking weirdos, the very first thing that they would do would be to say, hey, Nazis are bad and we're not going to support Nazism. That would be the number one thing that they would do. And I mean, but Canada does have a long history of this. Right? Canada has a long history of supporting Nazi monuments, right? Of making sure that these Nazi monuments remain untouched. If you go to one of these Nazi monuments and try to destroy it, you will be charged with a crime. And they will pay money to fix it. Like, these Nazi monuments are important. They're important for Canada. And there's actually a map that you can look at to see where all the Nazi monuments are around you, right? I might actually bring that up. And we're just Nazi monument maps. Yeah, here you go. Like, there's an interactive one. This is just a stagnant one. No, there's an interactive one. Is it here? I can't be arsed to find it. Like, and we've done everything we can. No, I mean, like, John is becoming the Joker. Like, it's like, the whole thing is a joke. Like, the whole thing is a joke. Like, you don't need to follow these rules. Like, this society is absolutely crazy. Like, we've lost our minds as a people. And I will be curious to see, and I'm actually really looking forward to seeing what this does to polling numbers. I'll be very, very curious to see what the polls look like over the next few weeks. I hope that the liberals fucking tank. I hope that they tank completely, because my hope is that the populace has enough sense in their brains at all to understand that, honoring a Nazi in the parliament is a bad idea, and I shouldn't support a party that's willing to do that kind of a thing. But we'll see. We'll see. It is going to be one of these moments where we're going to look. Zadov, dude, listen to me right now, bud. You're saying Soviet soldiers are not angels with camps? Yeah, right? They're not angels to Nazis, correct. Right? My critique of the Soviet Union is that they didn't kill enough Nazis. And so if your criticism of the Soviet Union is that the camps were harsh, they were not harsh enough and they should have killed more people. Get out of here with this Nazi apologencia, okay? Like, it's trash. It's junk. You should be embarrassed with yourself, defending Nazis the way that you do. Twin Tower Enjoyer writes, didn't they all applaud those guys, though? Do none of them know what fighting against Russia in World War II means? I mean, I think that you can make a defense, and my feeling is that you should make the defense, or what these guys will do, right? The infamous, just catching up with the rest of us, Panchokasa, Panchakosha. I don't know if I've ever seen you here, bud. You got to be brain dead at all at this point to think voting does anything at all. Well, voting for capitalists, certainly. Voting for capitalists, certainly. I tend to agree with you, though. I tend to go along with that line of thinking. I do think that a defense can be made, and the NDP and the Conservatives will certainly make this defense for themselves, that they're just kind of caught up in the moment, right? That many of them, and certainly you think about like a backbencher MP in the Conservative Party. Like, if I am going to say that it looks like the speaker read this and he didn't know what it was until he read it, that there's this moment where he reads it and he goes, then chances are good that like backbencher MPs in the Conservative Party, as well as the NDP and all of this, they don't know either. They're not sitting there going, and chances are good that these guys are not really listening, right? Like, it's a show. This whole thing is a pageant. It's scripted, right? And they understand that now's the time to stand up and clap. And that's it. And a lot of these guys are probably like, I just picture like a Conservative or an NDP backbench MP just sitting there, and there's Zelensky, and they're just sitting there going like, ba-dum-bum-dum, 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 ba-dum-bum-bum, ba-dum-bum-dum, and then they stand up, and they're like, everybody standing up? Yeah, that's the thing. And then they sit back down. I wonder what I should have for lunch today. What's going on, I wonder, at the market? I hope they have that duck again. You know, like, that's the kind of thing. That's the kind of thing that I think is pretty likely, and that's the defense that I would use if I was in that situation. And it looks like it's the defense the Conservatives are using, because really, at the end of the day, this clown here and this clown here, these two clowns here, are the ones that are obviously primarily responsible. But it's just like, yep. No wonder these countries want to join BRICS. We've lost our damn minds. We've absolutely conservatives get a pass for this for being typically stupid. The truth, if you ask me, is that I think the conservatives are running defense for the system of capital, because remember, everybody's got to remember, right? Conservatives and liberals are allies, right? That just because the conservatives are pointing at the liberals and saying, you let a Nazi in there, doesn't mean that the conservatives wouldn't also have done the same thing in similar circumstances, because they work for the system of capital. They both work for the system of capital. That the reason why this happened is because the liberals are declining in the polls and they know they're going to lose the next election. It doesn't look like they're putting up a fighting front. It doesn't look like they're actually saying, this is the stuff we're going to do for the populace, and we're actually going to try to gain in the numbers. They know they're on the way out. And so instead of actually fighting to stay in because it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter for the system of capital if it's liberal or conservative that's in. And also, very meaningfully, it no longer matters for the liberals if they're in. That the liberals did their job. For 15 years, they defended capital and they made sure that the system of capital was well protected. And now they're going to leave office and be rewarded for doing so. And so while they're on their way out, they're going to do stuff like this. And the comment that Pierre Poilievre is making, and I don't know if I have it right in front of me. No, I don't have it right in front of me at the moment, unless that's it right there. That isn't, but this is Caitlin Johnstone, so it's worth putting up. The defense, or the accusation, if you want to call it, it is a defense that they're using, is how can you trust someone who is so incompetent to not know how to vet properly? Oh, they didn't vet a Nazi because they're so dumb, right? So it's the incompetence defense, and that's what the conservatives are saying. The conservatives are not saying the liberals knew what they were doing. They put a Nazi in front of us on purpose. They are not saying these are not the things that they are saying, right? They're saying that Trudeau is stupid. And this is a defense. This is something they hope catches on. They hope that people will, because everybody understands that it's unacceptable. But now, instead of everybody saying it's unacceptable because these people are Nazi collaborators that are working with Nazis, that they're going to say, this is unacceptable because we need competence, right? And it's competency that is the thing that should ascend people up the hierarchy and the hierarchical chain. And the reason why the conservatives are doing that is because one day the shoe will be on the other foot. One day it'll be the conservatives that are in a similar position where the system of capital is telling them to throw themselves under the bus for the system of capital. And the liberals will need to defend the conservatives in the same manner. That they're a team. They work together, right? No one in the political system is standing up and indicting the liberals outside of Maxime Bernier. No one in the political system is actually standing up and indicting these guys for what they are, which are Nazi collaborators, right? So, so what you're saying is that their defense is that they admit they don't give a shit about what they talk about in Parliament. Yeah, no wonder other countries want to join BRICS, man. Yeah, we need to be isolated. Like we need to be isolated, and anybody who thinks otherwise is just out of touch. Like we have to be isolated. Absolutely, we have to be isolated. Yeah, conservatives and liberals are only different on fringe culture war shit. Anything that actually affects people materially or economically, or most foreign policy, they're exactly the same on. Well, and the culture war stuff is manufactured mainly, right? Like they know that they can whip people up along race, gender, ethnicity. They know that they can get people whipped up along those lines, and so they do it, right? And so they do it, and they can take very strong positions on those lines and have very strong, robust, lengthy conversations about that. Like, why do you think this whole trans thing is happening, right? It's 100%. Like, it makes total sense that there would be, like, kooky weirdos out there who would be, like, trans kids, so we gotta do something about this, right? But the fact that the political class has grabbed a hold of it tells you that they want to drive wedges into the society on purpose, right? Yeah, and the culture war is repackaged and commodified in capitalism. If you can have somebody identify in a certain way, then you can sell them stuff. Right? If all it takes is to get is to paint something a rainbow color, then you can convince them that this is the thing, right? You can sell them stuff, right? And that's what it's all about. It's just about selling stuff to people. So I think that I'm actually going to read this one. This is from the World Socialist website. From Keith Jones, Fascism and Imperialist War. Why Canada's Parliament saluted Ukrainian Nazi SS veteran. Last Friday, Canada's entire Parliament, led by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his honored guest, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, gave a standing ovation to a 98-year-old Ukrainian veteran of Adolf Hitler's Waffen-SS, Yaroslav Hunka. The Waffen-SS played a leading role in the extermination of Europe's Jews between 1941 and 1945. In response to an outpouring of public condemnation, Canada's political establishment has rallied around a cover story. The honoring of Hunka, we are now told, was an innocent mistake, for which the House of Commons Speaker Anthony Rota was solely responsible. I have subsequently become aware of more information which causes me to regret my decision, Rota said. No one, he added, including my fellow parliamentarians and the Ukraine delegation, was aware of my intention or of my remarks, in which he hailed Hunka as a Ukrainian and Canadian hero, before I delivered them. The claim that Rota and Trudeau were not informed of Hunka's past is absurd. The convening of a special sitting of Parliament to hear an address from Zelensky was a major political event that would have been carefully scripted. Those invited to hear Zelensky's address, let alone honored in the proceedings surrounding it, would have been extensively vetted. The Canadian Parliament's standing ovation for a Nazi war criminal was a deliberate provocation. It came at the conclusion of a week of war plotting in which Zelensky conferred with U.S. President Biden and other top U.S. officials, and bellicose speeches were given from the floor of the United Nations by Biden, Zelensky, and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Friday's events were the foul outcome of the decisions now being taken by Washington and its NATO allies to escalate the war in response to the manifest failure of Ukraine's much-vaunted spring-summer offensive. Biden, Trudeau, and the leaders of other NATO imperialist powers are now publicly speaking of a protracted war that they will wage for as long as it takes to inflict what they call a strategic defeat on Russia. That is, regime change in Moscow and its semi-colonial subjugation will require their moving rapidly to introduce NATO troops into Ukraine and initiating direct conflict with Russia. The standing ovation for the Ukrainian SS veteran Hunka was meant to send the Russian government the message that there are no limits the NATO powers are not prepared to cross. This event is the culmination of an alliance between the Canadian state and the Ukrainian far right that was cemented in the immediate aftermath of World War II, when Canada opened its doors to tens of thousands of Ukrainian Nazi collaborators. This included 2,000 veterans, Hunka among them. Of the specially created all-Ukrainian, senior-most officers accepted, Waffen-SS 14th Galician Division, the supporters of both wings of the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists. Ottawa, working in concert with the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, which had been founded at the government's behest at the beginning of World War II, used the Ukrainian fascists as tools of its Cold War policy. In recent decades, as the Canadian government, along with Washington and its NATO partners, has worked ever more aggressively to harness Ukraine to NATO and the European Union, the alliance with the UCC and the Ukrainian far right has become ever more important to Canadian foreign policy. It is embodied in the person of Chrystia Freeland, the Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister. The leading war hawk in the government, Freeland has been associated with the UCC since her youth. Her maternal grandfather was the editor of Krakivsky Visti, the only Ukrainian newspaper allowed to appear under Nazi occupation. It championed the creation of the Waffen-SS 14th Galician Division. The Canadian Parliament's applauding of Hunka is just the most egregious example of the fact that the escalation of the war has been accompanied by a systemic effort to rehabilitate Ukrainian fascism. On June 29th, Stanford University provided a platform for the neo-Nazi Ukrainian Azov Battalion in an event sponsored by the Department of Slavic Languages and Literature and the Ukrainian Students' Association. Insignia associated with fascism, such as the official logo of the Azov Battalion, which is deliberately modeled after the Nazis' wolf angel symbol, were used to promote the event on campus. Last year, leading members of both of U.S. imperialism's principal parties met with high-ranking Azov Battalion soldiers at the Capitol in Washington, D.C. The rehabilitation of fascism in connection with the eruption of imperialist militarism is particularly advanced in Germany. Beginning in 2014, leading academics, with the backing of the political elite and media establishment, launched a campaign to whitewash the monstrous crimes German imperialism committed in the two world wars, including the extermination of 6 million Jews and the war of annihilation against the Soviet Union. From the outset, the relativation of the crimes of this German imperialism was animated by the drive to revive a German Weltpolitik, a predatory world policy. With the Ukrainian war, Berlin has once again bared its fangs. Military spending has exploded as German imperialism asserts a leading role in the drive to subjugate Russia and plunder its natural resources, tasks which Berlin tried and failed to accomplish on 2 previous occasions in little more than a century. The same capitalist contradictions driving the ruling elites of the imperialist powers to embrace fascist mass murderers like Hanke in pursuit of their predatory ambitions are also propelling into revolutionary struggle the only social force capable of putting a stop to this madness, the international working class. Workers in every country are rebelling against the ruling elite's determination to make them pay for the war and the enrichment of the financial oligarchy, resulting in the largest number of major strikes and mass protests in decades. The urgent task is to fuse these social struggles with the fight to build a global anti-war movement on the basis of a socialist and internationalist program to put a stop to imperialist war and the threat of fascism and the capitalist system that produces them. Yeah, that's right, Command Genius. What a crazy timeline we live in. That's right, my man. That's right, my man. I don't know if the goal of Russia is to take all of Ukraine, but I think it's what it's going to take. Like if Russia's goal is to deal with this. Yep, I know, Command Genius. This is a Trotskyist website, but I'm not a fundamentalist about it. Like, it's I think it's important. Like, everybody has a bias, and as long as you understand what that bias is, right? I don't hold it against them, even though they hold it against me, but that's fine. Yeah, glad we just pledged another $500 million to Ukraine instead of feeding unhoused, starving Canadians. Yeah, absolutely. Yet the neoliberals have always supported Nazism. Not sure if you've said that before. I mean, for me, I have been quoted, and please feel free to quote me as this, that I believe that neoliberalism is just rebranded fascism. That if you actually take a look at what neoliberalism is as an idea and as a thought, and then you take a look at what fascism is as an idea and a thought, you see that they're basically the same, right? There isn't much oxygen between the two of them. That neoliberalism is willing to make a singular concession, which is that minority groups should be permitted to survive, right? That's the singular concession that neoliberalism is willing to do. That as long as you're willing to join in the hierarchy, right? And like Peterson has laid out all this language. Like Peterson is a fascist sympathizer. He's easily like he's Nazi adjacent without a doubt, and it's all right there, right? That fascism is this idea that there is a system. That system is called capitalism, right? And that the people who ascend the system are those who are the most competent fascists, right? The most competent capitalists. Those who are most willing to exploit others are more than capable of ascending this hierarchy and being rewarded for it. And those who ascend the hierarchy are the people who should run the society and should be considered valuable. That's true in both neoliberalism and fascism. It's just that fascism takes another step and says that we should use military power in order to exterminate small groups of people, which neoliberals are already doing, right? Neoliberals are happily doing that. It's just that they're willing to say we shouldn't, right? So that to me, liberalism and neoliberalism are much more scheming, are much darker, because they're willing to use deception so thoroughly. They're willing to be so deceitful. And as long as you're willing to go along with them, right? They don't care if you're black or Hispanic, right? If you're willing to betray your communities, and if you're willing to betray other citizens in order to uphold this system of exploitation, then they don't care, right? They don't care. And in fact, they use it as a shield, right? They use it as a shield. Speaking about Trotskyism, did you see the new CIA documents that got published about Trotsky? I did not. Can you put that in the Discord, my man? I actually would like to see that. Because, like, my feeling about Trotsky, like, post his being thrown out of the Soviet Union, or his fleeing from the Soviet Union, is that he basically became like a really powerful Western mouthpiece. He like really did a lot of work for Western powers that he didn't need to do. Trotsky was funded by the MI6 to be against the USSR. Dude, I need to see those documents. Are you serious? Hold on. Dude. What? What? I didn't think today was going to be like this, man. I didn't think we were going to be like this today. What do we got? So we got this. Leon Trotsky was an MI6 agent since 1918, American intelligence documents reveal. Since 1918? Are you serious about this? Bro, wait a fucking minute. What the fuck are you talking about? Like like what the fuck are you talking about? Since 1918. Like, hold on. I need to give Milo some food. How much money do I need to be happy? The Canadian commie? Like, how much money do I need to be happy? Exactly the amount that will pay my food and rent. As soon as my food and rent is covered, man, the rest of it is gravy as far as I'm concerned. And if I ever were to become a wealthy man, I would just give it away. I would literally walk in the streets and just hand it away. So as soon as my food and rent are taken care of, I am disconnecting completely from the system of capital, and I'm perfectly happy dying in a very small room. It's completely fine. 1 second, guys. I gotta give Milo some food. Here you go, my man. What's that? Ugh, my little dog is getting super blind. He just is not putting two and two together. Yeah, bruh, I'm done. Absolutely. Okay, hold on. Because you've just given us a couple of links here, Command Genius. Let's gently push back on this, okay? Gently. Where is this information coming from? Who is this? Sovietinform.net. Okay, I don't know who this is. Okay? So we're going to vet this information in real time right in front of you, okay? And help us do it. Because I'm with you. Let's go hand in hand together. Like, I don't know what these documents are. They look like documents to me. So let's do it. Sovinform is a Twitter account and news source that goes through CIA documents about socialist countries. Fantastic. Content is just like, I need to sit down, dude. Look, Lenin was right? Like, Lenin was right, where he was like, there are decades where nothing happens, and then weeks where decades happen, right? Like, honoring a Ukrainian Nazi. Trotsky was an MI agent. Like, this is happening over the course of like a day. Come on to the Canadian Commie. Sometimes we talk about video games, and sometimes we talk about Nazis. Nazis! It hasn't even been the whole week. It hasn't even been the whole week. Jumbo Jack 5000 asks, what do I do for a job? I do this, which definitely helps. You can donate to my Patreon. It gets you into the Discord. Every little bit helps. I appreciate it. And then I also work in a restaurant in a government historic site called the Evergreen Brickworks here in the city of Toronto, which is actually really lovely. It's actually really, really lovely. And that is enough to help pay my bills. I do so. If I can get a roommate in here, I can actually get a little bit of money on the side, right? And then everything's great. Everything's gravy. Dude, I need a cigarette. I don't even smoke. Okay. So, Command Genius says that this is a Twitter guy who goes through these documents. All right, we got to verify the veracity of these documents. Like, what are these documents? We're just, like, I am not going to start saying to Trotskyists, hey, you know, Leon Trotsky was an MI6 agent since 1918, right? Until I can be very, very sure that this is verified information. Like, what are these documents? What am I even looking at here? What am I even looking at? Because I hate that they're, like, all topsy-turvy and upside down. Papers... Publication, Wilson, the American History... The American History Collection. The Papers of Woodrow Wilson. Volumes. Volume 47, March 13th to May 12th, 1918. Documents, Gordon Auchinclose to Edith Boiling Galt Wilson. With enclosure. Enclosure 16, March 1918. For the President. Meeting of Supreme War Council extended its session from 15th to 16th so that all political did not take place until yesterday afternoon. It was held at number 10 Downing Street. Following were present Mr. Lloyd George, his military secretary, Colonel Hankey, M. Clemenceau, Senor Orlando, a bunch of names, General Spires, who acted as interpreter, and myself. The subjects discussed in question were of Japan and Siberia, declaration regarding the German-Russian and German-Ukrainian peace, and a Polish declaration. I'm glad you're vetting this in real time. Yeah, I absolutely need this to be vetted. Like, this would be one of the biggest pieces of news in communism for decades. Like, for decades. You got to help me out here, Command Genius. You're the man. Like, you're the one that's bringing this forward. You got to help me out. Like, where is it? Where is the damning paragraph? Like, I need a okay. March 27th, I had a very satisfactory discussion with Trotsky, who again mentioned the possibility of Allied troops being sent via Siberia to Russia. Trotsky confirmed the remarks made by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. I said that Russia would welcome the help of the Allied countries now that she is involved in a life-or-death struggle, even if to obtain the help should become necessary for the socialist forces to fight in cooperation with the army of the imperialists, provided that the Allies would give guarantees at certain points that other Allied forces were present. He thought there was no objection to the use of Japanese troops. I do not doubt that it is more than possible to come to an arrangement in this question. Yeah, Trots in general repeats CIA propaganda about countries, and that's already bad enough. It's true. It is interesting how that works. It's funny how so many Trotskyist talking points are like right in line with capitalist propaganda talking points, right? Maybe I would be better off to just read this. Bro, what the fuck is happening in this world? Trotsky was no doubt an agent of the MI6 since the early days of the October Revolution. Several pieces of evidence, when placed together, prove this fact. So it's a smattering of evidence. According to March 1918 U.S. intelligence documents sent to President Woodrow Wilson, Lockhart was in daily touch with Trotsky. Now, one of the things I think needs to be made clear here, and one of the points that I'll bring forward in order to be skeptical, because I would like to be skeptical on this point, because the Trotskyists are absolutely going to be skeptical of this, and they are right to be, right? I think it is right for us to be skeptical of this information, is that they're going to say a lot of like, yeah, so what? Like, so Trotsky was talking to foreign powers, right? He should. He's one of the leaders of the revolutionary government. He's one of the leaders of the Russian government. He should be talking to foreign powers and organizing with foreign powers in order to protect his country, right? So simply talking to foreign powers is not enough. Like we're going to need to see like a plot. We're going to need to see something more significantly. Another U.S. intelligence document more than a month later added, Lockhart, who'd always been a keen supporter of Trotsky, now seems to think the latter is losing his influence. Thus far, it has been established that Lockhart, the top MI6 operative in Russia, established close contacts with Trotsky and was keenly supporting Trotsky. There is more to this. So, yeah, that seems true. So that's a fair statement. We got Lockhart, an MI6 operative in Russia, talking to Trotsky. That I think we can say is true. Or at least they say it's true. There's more to this. Trotsky himself actively served the interests of the British Empire knowingly and directly during the Civil War. Among Trotsky's activities for the MI6 and against Soviet power was the fact that Trotsky advocated the British occupation of the territory that justly belonged to the Soviet Union, as noted by an April 1918 U.S. intelligence memorandum. It is to be noted that the British embassy requested this government to send a warship to Murmansk about 2 weeks ago. The department is informed that the original landing of the British at Murmansk was made with the full consent and approval of Trotsky. Enclosure memorandum. Yeah, that's the citation. Some may argue that Trotsky was merely seeking to exploit inter-imperialist rivalries by getting British assistance against the German forces. This point by these critics is fundamentally wrong for two reasons. Number one, back then, the imperialist Germans, who sought peace with the USSR, so to move troops from the Eastern Front to the Western Front, were less a threat to Soviet power than the Anglo-American allies, who had invaded the USSR to reinstall the warmonger anti-German regime of Kerensky, or the Tsar. Furthermore, the balance of power was already against the German imperialists and in favor of the Anglo-Americans. In such conditions, German imperialism favored strategic partnership with the progressive classes, including the proletariat that ruled the Soviet Union. So to regain the upper hand in the war, number two, somewhat more obviously, the USSR and the Germans had already signed a peace treaty of Brest-Litovsk a month prior, on March 3rd, 1918. The Germans were already moving troops to the Western Front, and hence were no longer a threat. When the German imperialists were no longer a threat, there was no justification whatsoever for receiving the aid of British imperial rivals of the German imperialists. It thus logically follows that this is high-level nerdery right here, guys. This is high-level nerdery right here. And I got to tell you, I could really use some high-level communist inside the ball field, like high-level nerdery right now. With this shit going on, give me the nerdery. Nerdery. Najara, good to see you. Jim Moneymaker, good to see you. We are going through the hilarious idea that Leon Trotsky was an MI6 agent since 1918. Dude, this is hilarious. So far, it just seems like Trotsky made a decision. He was like talking to British imperialists. But like every leader makes interesting decisions on the foreign stage. So I'm not terribly convinced that this makes Trotsky an MI6 agent, right? It thus logically follows that Trotsky's expression of concern about the German threat was merely a cover for his activities on behalf of the MI6 and against Soviet power. So that's the accusation, right? That what Trotsky is doing is on behalf of MI6 and against Soviet power. And what the Trotskyists will say, and I think what I am going to say until I can see something that really proves to the counter, is that that Trotsky is doing it on behalf of Soviet power. That simply because the agenda of the British Empire and the Soviets align on one particular issue at one particular time does not make Trotsky a MI6 agent, right? Like, when I hear Trotsky is an MI6 agent, what I hear is somebody who is in a position of power in order to exploit that position of power to undercut the country that they're living in, usually to seize power for themselves. No doubt, Trotsky wanted power for himself, right? I think that is very clear, that Trotsky was very, very clear about yet making a deal with the Allies and being on their payroll since 1918 is quite a difference, yeah. And so far, I'm just seeing a guy who is saying, hey, we can move some stuff around. I'll let you get one thing in here at this one time, right? Yeah, that is an absolute mindfuck. World War II is starting to shape up as absolutely an anti-revolutionary Russia the whole time. But Trotsky selling out to the British, that's pretty hard evidence. Okay, but we're not seeing selling out. Okay, not yet. I'm trying to play the devil's advocate. I'm trying to be skeptical. Okay, because I believe in evidence, and so far the evidence is Trotsky made one deal one time with the British. Right, that doesn't imply that he's a British agent. Right, that shows that he's the leader of a country, or that he is one of the leaders of a country that has to make these sorts of negotiations. That's what that shows. Okay. Let's keep going, because we're just getting started here. Well, not really. Like, it's anyway. Let's go. When the German imperialists were no longer a threat, there was no justification. Yep, it thus logically follows. This expression was cover for his activities on behalf of MI6 against Soviet power. As late as 3 weeks after March 3rd, 1918, Brest-Litovsk's treaty, the top MI6 official Lockhart remarked, on March 27th, I had a very satisfactory discussion with Trotsky, who again mentioned the possibility of Allied troops being sent via Siberia to Russia. Trotsky confirmed the remarks made by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and said that Russia would welcome help from Allied countries, now that she is involved in a life-and-death struggle, even if to obtain this help it should become necessary for the socialist forces to fight in cooperation with the army of the imperialists. Provided that the Allies would give guarantees on certain points and that other Allied forces were present, he thought there was no objection to the use of Japanese troops. I do not doubt that it was more than possible to come to an arrangement in this question, but in order to do so, we must act with caution. So again, like, this is a leader of a country seeing his options and working with the powers on the table, right? I don't see this idea of him being an agent. And in fact, this comment that Lockhart is making is that Trotsky is explicitly stating that he's willing to cooperate with British power and Japanese power in order to benefit the Soviet Union. Right, so it isn't we're here to undercut the Soviet Union and I'm here for gold and plunder and to destroy the Soviet Union, but quite the opposite. So, and I think that you could make that case given this statement. So, from here, Trotsky's collaboration and service to not only the MI6, but also the Japanese imperialist aggressors can be clearly observed. By the time the peace deal with, he's talking to them. Like, this is the thing. Right, is that when you get up to this level, when you're at this level of nation state, there's no higher power, right? There's no authority that you can talk to. You have to be negotiating with the people at the table. You have to. And maybe that means making one deal over here that seems kind of suspicious if it results in a benefit for your country. And simply talking to them is not enough. Straight up. Simply talking to them is not enough. From here, Trotsky's collaboration and service to not only the MI6, but also the Japanese imperialist aggressors can be clearly observed. By the time the peace deal with Germany had been established, there was not even the slightest strategic reason for the Anglo-Franco-Japanese-American alliance to occupy the Soviet territory as counterweight against the German threat, because Germany was no longer a threat. That's theoretical, right? A peace treaty is a piece of paper, right? A peace treaty is a piece of paper. Guns are guns, right? Trotsky could not have missed this fact, yet as a traitor, yet a traitor as he was. Okay, so I feel like we've got some confirmation bias coming in here, right? He advocated the occupation of Soviet territory by the Japanese imperialists. The loss of Sakhalin to Japan was thanks to him. Oh, interesting. On April 18th, 1918, the infamous British imperial leader Lord James Balfour wrote to Lord Reading, "Of late, a very significant change." Here, hold on. I have to have a sillier. I need a sillier voice. "Of late, a very significant change has come over the attitude, at any rate of its Trotsky towards allies. For some time past, he has begun to show signs that he recognizes that cooperation with the Allies in a war to free Russia from German domination is the only hope either for Russia or revolution, or possibly for maintenance of his own power. Opinions differ. Opinions differ as to Trotsky's honesty, but he is evidently a man of decision, and of late, whatever may be motives, he has not only curbed anti-Ally tone of Bolshevist press, but he has approved of Allied cooperation at Murmansk and has suggested that British naval officers should assist in restoring discipline in the Black Sea Fleet." I mean, it is important to note that the Soviets were allied with Britain and America during World War II. Like, that alliance did exist. Like, we've got pictures of Stalin with FDR and Churchill. Like, that happened. And so it seems to me like a fairly odd accusation to levy at Trotsky, that how dare he discuss terms and things with the British, right? Yeah, Generation Y Me is raising an interesting point, right? I feel like Trotsky is at least being extremely naive if he thinks Japan occupying part of the country could benefit Russia. Yeah, yeah, that's probably a fair thing to say. Yeah, Liga Dizzy, big ice pick energy this stream. Rose, joke's on you guys. I don't need any proof to call Trotsky a foreign agent. Trotsky preferred the Japanese fascists during World War II. That's pretty tough. That's pretty tough. Here. Let's continue with this because we're almost actually done. On May 1918, Trotsky once again demanded the Anglo-American-led coalition assistance for his position in the struggle against the Lenin faction. Here we go, okay? If you can show this, like, troops coming into the Soviet Union to help with, like, military on the defense of, like, Germans and all this kind of stuff, like, I think that falls under the table of believable. But if you can show me that he's doing stuff specifically to undercut his political adversaries, then we get to, like, if you can say, here's a piece of territory, Britain, if I get power instead of the Stalinists or the Leninists, right? Like, that's where I'm going to be like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Like, what a piece of shit this guy is. Okay. In recent reports from our representative at Moscow, you will have noted they're calling him our representative at Moscow. That's interesting, okay? It is actually interesting. Paraphrase of telegram from Mr. Balfour to Lord Reading, right? So they are calling Trotsky their representative at Moscow. That's interesting. You will have noticed a most important change in the attitude of Trotsky as described in these telegrams, and an even more noticeable alteration in Mr. Lockhart's estimate of the position. The embarrassment in which Trotsky now finds himself is caused by his belief, for which there is only too much foundation, that the Allies, even if asked to intervene, would not be ready to give him help for a long time, while Germany is in a position to make an immediate attack. His enemies would be able to crush him completely before his friends had been able to put even one division ashore in the Far East. So, I don't know, though. Like, this is showing that, like, Trotsky's in a situation, that he's in a bind, and he's trying to work with anybody who's willing to help them against the Germans. Again, I think this is providing evidence that the Germans are poised to attack, and that Trotsky is looking for allies and looking for help from anybody who's going to protect them from these attacking Germans. So I don't think this is doing what I think the person is arguing. Right? I don't think the case is being made as strongly as Trotsky is an MI6 agent. I don't think that's a strong enough case. Certainly he's working with them, but I would expect the leader of any country to do this. Like I'm never going to sit here and be like, Justin Trudeau talked to the Chineses, makes him a traitor to Canada. Like that's what this energy is kind of actually to me is like. He actually talked to the Americans and the British. Stalin was literally their allies. Like, yeah, I'm sure he did on several occasions. So, as can be seen, Trotsky was closely in contact with the top MI6 operative Lockhart, was supported by the top MI6 operative Lockhart, this is true, and promoted the British imperial occupation of the territory of the USSR so that he, a loyal agent of fascist reaction, may succeed in the factional conflict against the agents of Soviet power. Is that what that shows? Is that what that shows? Like, I that's not what I got when I read that. I didn't get this third point. Point 1 and 2, sure. Promoted the British imperial occupation of the territory of the USSR. Where? In recent reports of our representative in Moscow, you will notice the most important change in attitude of Trotsky is described in these telegrams. A noticeable alteration of Mr. Lockhart's estimate of the position. The embarrassment in which Trotsky now finds himself is caused by his belief, for which there is only too much foundation, that the Allies, even if asked to intervene, would not be ready to give him help for a long time, while Germany is in a position to make an immediate attack. His enemies would be able to crush him completely before his friends have been able to put one division ashore in the Far East. So what that says is we're in no position to actually help if Germany attacks. That's what that says. Of late, very significant change. Trotsky towards allies. For someone past, he's showed signs that he recognizes the cooperation with the allies in a war free from Russia-German domination is the only hope for either Russia or revolution or possibly the maintenance of his own power. So a bit like throwing shade at him, being like, what are his motivations? We don't actually know. Opinions differ as to Trotsky's honesty, but he is evidently a man of decision, and of late, whatever may be his motives, he has not only curbed anti-ally tone, he has approved of anti-cooperation at Murmansk and suggested the British naval officers should assist in restoring discipline in the Black Sea Fleet. So, like, a couple of some British troops, right? The British naval officers should assist in restoring discipline in the Black Sea Fleet. That's what this says. He suggested that British naval officers should assist in restoring discipline in the Black Sea Fleet. So this isn't British people come in and take over territory. This is British officers showing up and talking to our people. So if you think the British are evil, which, I mean, fair point, and it has real, like, Canadians sending over officers to train Nazis in Ukraine kind of vibes, right? And that, like, but kind of in the inverse, that British imperialists are coming over to work with our soldiers kind of vibes. But again, I think that the argument can be made pretty clearly that Trotsky is interested in doing that for the benefit of his own people. That he's more afraid of the Germans, peace treaty or no, he's still more afraid of the Germans than he is of the British. And he's willing to work with the British in order to benefit his own people and his own position. And reminding everybody, Stalin was allied with the British during World War II and the Americans during World War II. Like, that's objectively true. So this third point that's being made, promoted British imperial occupation, I don't read occupation. I am seeing British naval officers should assist in restoring discipline in the Black Sea. He's approved Allied cooperation at Murmansk, right? This guy is not saying Lord James Balfour is not saying Trotsky is giving us land in exchange for political power. That is not what I'm seeing here. So this feels like a big leap right here. This number 3, promoted the British imperial occupation of the territory of the USSR so that he, a loyal agent of fascist reaction, may succeed in the factional conflict against the agents of Soviet power. That looks like a giant leap of logic right there. Like right here, number 3. Like number 1, closely in contact with the MI6 operative Lockhart, was supported by the top MI6 operative Lockhart. Sure, that looks correct. Point number 3, absolutely not. I have not seen the evidence for that. Some would argue that based on the above evidence, Trotsky was indeed treasonously collaborating with the MI6. But that treasonous collaboration with an intelligence service does not mean being an agent of that organization, and that it rather only means treasonous partnership. Is it treasonous even? Like, is it treasonous even? Like, he's not doing it in order to, like, I didn't read anything there that said, let's go in there and get Lenin. Let's go in there and get Stalin, right? Let's get in there so that we can, like, how do we know that Trotsky isn't just turning around and saying to Lenin and Stalin and the rest of them? So the British have this plan to come in with, and we're getting a little bit soft on the British here in this region because they can send some officers, and that'll help us against it. How do we know Trotsky isn't saying that? Like this, there's just a lot of presumption. This is a lot of oh yeah, the T. Bird III. I was amazed at the applause of an SS officer in the Canadian Parliament. Bud, that's what I've been talking about this whole stream. I've been talking about that this whole stream. We're taking a break from that for my sanity to talk about, is Trotsky an MI6 agent? Is Trotsky an MI6 agent? Because I need it, bud. I need it. I need my brain to loosen up a little bit, and this is great. This is great. This is exactly the right thing for me right now. So, such a remark, however, demonstrates an idealistic misunderstanding of intelligence service work. Oh, okay. I have an idealistic misunderstanding of intelligence service work. Okay, great. Please explain to me why I have an idealistic misunderstanding of intelligence service work. Intelligence services do formally have command structures, but in practice, such command structures are loosely implemented. This is actually true. That command structures are loose, and that's sort of for on purpose in terms of intelligence. If a spy gets captured, you want to be like, what spy, right? Instead, in practice, intelligence services work like partnership networks as opposed to rigidly enforced command structure networks. The reason for this is explained by the invincible thesis of the historical material. The reason for this is explained by the invincible thesis of the historical materialist science. I gotta respect it. You know, you gotta respect this invincible thesis of the historical materialist science. But if you used that invincible thesis of the historical materialist science, you'd see pretty clearly that these guys are not talking about treason. Like they're talking about troop movement and like a potential ally and a potential like everything seems very like why should give me one reason why Trotsky shouldn't be talking to these guys. Straight up, give me a single reason why Trotsky should not be talking to these guys. Right? Like he should be. He should be talking to these guys. I'd be blown away if he wasn't. Right? Like I'd be blown away if Lenin, Trotsky, Stalin, all of them, if they weren't actually talking to these guys. That's called diplomacy. It's you should be doing it. The laws of historical materialism dictate that the power of an intelligence agent is derived from the amount of historical material factors at the disposal and under the control of the intelligent agent. The more an agent has historical material forces under his or her control, the more the agent has bargaining chips and leverage in their collaboration with the intelligence service they serve, and hence the more power the agent has the intelligence service network. An ordinary terrorist guerrilla carrying out military operations for the MI6 listens to and accepts the orders of his or her subordinate officers in the MI6, not as much because the MI6 protocols dictate such, but more so because the MI6 protocols are enforced by the fact that the subordinate MI6 officers... Bro, like what is this whole fucking argument right here? This is why Trotsky, being a partner, a willing accomplice, and a treasonous collaborator with the MI6 does indeed objectively make him an MI6 agent. No, it doesn't. It doesn't, man. This is a big jump. It's a really, really big jump Throughout the rest of his life, as shall be seen, Trotsky never really defected away from the MI6, but merely extended his intelligence activities to also serve secret services that were allied to the MI6. I think it would be fair. It'd be more fair to say, if your argument is that Trotsky is an MI6 agent, I think that you would be better off trying. It's going to be a longer argument than just a couple of things right at the beginning. That you can successfully make the case here you can successfully make the case here that this is the moment Trotsky begins his journey to become an MI6 agent. But if this is your evidence for Trotsky is an MI6 agent, I just offhandedly can reject it. Right? Not convincing. I am unconvinced. And I'll tell you why I'm unconvinced. Like this statement here, Trotsky should not seek allyship with the British because the British are also capitalists. Trotsky should have stayed neutral during World War I. Nice idea, right? Like it's kind of great to say that, but the truth is that when you're dealing in international politics, you gotta deal with the people who are at the table. You gotta deal with the people who are at the table. Like the alternative for someone like Trotsky and for someone like and for the Soviet Union generally is to alienate people sitting at the table. Like, you want to be friends with these people. Capitalists or no, you want to be friends with them. Why? Because they have militaries. and there are military powers that are going to mess you up. Assisted by Trotsky, the MI6 was able to launch an Okay, here we go. Now here's a claim. Let's sink our teeth into this claim. Assisted by Trotsky, the MI6 was able to launch an assassination attempt against Lenin, almost murdering him. Bum, bum, bum. So everything we've seen up to date is like foundation building. Trotsky's talking to MI6. Okay? Not convincing that he's treasonous yet, but if you can show me this, then we can start talking. The British landed troops in Murmansk, an area close to Arkhangelsk. Trotsky's approval of the British invasion of Murmansk in northern Russia assisted the MI6, especially Trotsky's boss, Lockhart, in its plot to assassinate top communist leaders, including Lenin. The BBC reported, in late May, the British decided to send a small military force to Archangel in northern Russia. The official line was that troops were going to prevent thousands of tons of British military equipment supplied to the Russians from falling into German hands. However, documents from the day suggest that plans were later drawn up for these 5,000 British troops to join forces with 20,000 crack Latvian troops who were guarding the Kremlin but could, it was thought, be turned against the Bolsheviks. In the summer of 1918, Lockhart sent a telegram to London following a meeting with a local opponent of the Bolsheviks called Savinkov. What an awesome name. Savinkov. It read, Savinkov's proposal for counter-revolution. Plan is how, on Allied intervention, Bolshevik barons will be murdered and military dictatorship formed. Underneath that telegram is a note bearing the signed initials of Lord Curzon, who was then a member of the British War Cabinet. It says, Savinkov's methods are drastic, though if successful, probably effective. But we cannot say or do anything until intervention has been definitely decided upon. Dude, this is sick. The Bolsheviks' barons included Vladimir Lenin, against whom there was an assassination in the summer of 1918. The person who plotted to murder Lenin was a social revolutionary. Lenin was severely wounded and was about to die, but ultimately survived. It is a well-known fact, however, that the assassination plot damaged Lenin's body enough to cause his death in 1924, at only the age of 53. And that's the end of this. Okay. I think that you can say at best that Trotsky was negotiating with the British and the British exploited that negotiation in order to make this assassination attempt help. That I think that I'm not seeing the intent. I'm not seeing the intent that's required to convince me that Trotsky is an MI6 agent. Just it's not really there. That this argument is that Trotsky was talking to the British, which a man like Trotsky should absolutely be talking to the British, seeking support in a military situation, and the British then exploited that situation to launch an assassination attempt. Yeah, hella sus, but in the life of a person at this level and at this scale, you're going to have a lot of these moments. There's going to be a lot of that kind of stuff that happens, right? And you can put together these sorts of pictures with the documents that we have. So, yeah, maybe naive might be too strong a word, but definitely like making a bad decision in a series of bad decisions, right? That sometimes people just have to make a decision, right? A decision needs to be made, and you only have bad decisions, right? And so, I think you could, from what I've seen here, you could probably levy that Trotsky made a decision that was exploited, but I just don't like where's the conversation between Lord Butterbean or whatever his name fucking was, right? Lord Farquaad of Hollandsburg or whatever. What was his fucking name? He had that kind of a name. You know what I'm talking about? Lord Balford to Lord Reading, right? It's fucking Brits, like super British. Like, where's the document saying that, like, yes, Trotsky worked with us to send the troops in so that we could send them down there to assassinate Lenin, right? Like, that's... Yeah, this sounds more like the Brits were trying to play Trotsky. That's what that sounds like. That I think that what the Trotskyists would say, and I think it's accurate to say, given what I just saw right here, is that Trotsky's in the position of needing to look out for the defense of his own country. He reaches out for potential allies to a foreign power, in this particular case, the British. And the British use that situation to attempt to assassinate their leaders. Like, not great, but not treason. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sitting here being like, Trotsky, what an evil dickhead. Yeah, and I mean, I just think that you're always going to find this kind of behavior in, and you're always going to see this kind of stuff in military leadership roles and things at the top level. You're always going to see that kind of stuff. And so this is not enough to convince me. I remain unconvinced that this, at best, you could say, you could always say that this is the beginning of their relationship. But I think I would need to see more. I think I would need to see more than this. Command Genius, Trotsky always said that he was smarter than Lenin. Trotsky should have known that both powers in World War I were against the USSR, and the Bolsheviks party stated that they should not seek allyship with the capitalists. Like, so hold on. Actually, that's an interesting point that Command Genius is bringing up. Command Genius, can you show clearly that the Bolsheviks and that the Soviet leadership was saying that they did not want to what? Can you show that this was done clandestinely? Is what I think I'm driving at. Can you show that? Yeah, if you can show that. If you can show that the Bolsheviks were saying, we will not seek allyship with the British, we don't want to work with the British, and that Trotsky is doing this against those wishes, then I think you've got that strengthens your case. That strengthens your case a lot. So that's something I would definitely take a look at. Because, like, fucking, what are you doing, Trotsky? The people around you, everybody around you is saying don't do it, right? Your leadership is saying don't do it, and you're doing it anyway, and then it leads to an assassination attempt. Seems suspicious, Trotsky. Seems suspicious, right? Dude, this Nazi shit is crazy. Like, this is crazy town. Thank you for that break, Command Genius. I needed that break from the ridiculous nonsense that is this conversation. What the fuck are you even talking about? Like, what the fuck are you even talking about? These people should all resign. They should, every single one of these people resign. Like, please, please, for the love of God, resign. Do us all the favor and just get the F out of here and resign completely. Because this is crazy town. This is crazy town population. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, and the only thought that is still in the back of my head, I said it earlier and I got to say it now to get it out of my consciousness, is I told you fucking guys. Like, there's people in my life that I know that are just like, I can just, the next time I see them, I don't even need to say it. I don't even need to be like, I told you so. Like, here it is. Like, hey, remember 2 years ago when you called me kooky and crazy for saying that thing about the Nazis? Hey, well, how about now? What's going on now with that situation? So there is just this type of, there is this just general type of redemption, or not redemption, but there's the word. It's an R word. Not redemption. I said it earlier and I'm forgetting what it is now, but that's how I feel. First of all, I feel exhausted, but I definitely feel handsome boy. Explanation. Handsome boy. Are you so handsome that you don't know what's going on, my man? Please. I hate to do this to you, my man, because it's gonna give you wrinkles. It's gonna age you. It's gonna age you. The liberal government. No, not rectify, Tinker. Good try. Maybe it isn't an R word. Oh, it's gonna kill me. The liberal government, while Zelensky was in town, the liberal government honored a Ukrainian that fought in World War II against the Russians. Huh? Didn't take very long for everybody to go, wait, a Ukrainian fighting against the Russians in World War II? You mean a Nazi? What are you talking about? Show the tweet from Freeland. What tweet? Dude, is Freeland doubling down? Please tell me yes. Dude, you got to put this in the general or something. I don't have this tweet that you're talking about. The only tweet that I have, yeah, Freeland looks so happy, like she's right at home. Bro. So, like, I'm so sorry, handsome boy. I'm so sorry to be the person to tell you that in the Parliament of Canada, at the federal level, the Liberal government in front of Zelensky said, hey, everybody look at the Nazi. Wave at the Nazi. We like Nazis. Why did they invite them? What is it all about? Greetings from Russia. Greetings from Canada, handsome boy. I hope you're doing well out there. The going theory, and this is the World Socialist website's idea as well, the going theory is that the liberals are vindication. Vindication! Classic R word. Vindication. The R is so silent that we don't even write it. It's a silent R, okay? A super silent R. Make sure you leave 2 spaces for the super silent R when you write the word vindication. The going theory, handsome boy, is that the Liberals are a spent force in Canada. They know they're losing power. And so they're now in a trajectory where losing more power is not relevant. It doesn't matter if they lose more power. So they and so if they platform this Nazi and lose a bunch of power, it doesn't matter to them. But what it does do is it signals to all their Nazi allies in Ukraine and around the rest of the world that we're willing to do crazy shit for this alliance, for this idea. That we are going to continue pursuing this thing and look at the Nazis that we're willing to platform and look at the shitstorm that we're willing to cause in order to support this, right? And the strategy, of course, by the Canadian Parliament is to go, oopsie-doo, forgot to vet that guy, oopsie-doo, what a whoopsie-badoopsie, right? It worked for Iraq. You guys all thought it was just an oopsie-doo when we blew Iraq up. Oopsie-doo. So here's another just oopsie-doo. How embarrassing. Right? That's their strategy. And of course, I am here to say they knew exactly what they were doing. There is absolutely a 0% chance that they did not know this guy was a Nazi. They are for sure. Like, you want to talk about a dog whistle, right? You want to talk about a Nazi dog whistle. Well, here's like a dog whistle choir. Here is like a whole choir of dog whistles right in front of you that are blasting so loudly that they no longer sound like whistles. It sounds like a chorus of hellions just screaming in your face. It's so obvious that this is Nazi collaboration. It's beyond obvious that it's Nazi collaboration. Yeah, this isn't a dog whistle, it's a fucking foghorn. Absolutely. That the Canadian government, the Canadian military, and certainly the Liberal Party at the very least, has the back of Nazis. That this is textbook, by definition, Nazi collaboration. That's what this is. And it's for sure Canada signaling to NATO and their allies that we're all in. We're all in, baby. We're pushing all in on pro-Nazi shit. Let's be Nazis together. This tweet. Sorry, bud. Is this a thing? There's no tweet. No tweet, my man. Sorry. I'll show it. I'll happily show it. Okay, here we go. More. Give me more Trotsky. More Trotsky. We're going deep, bud. We're going deep. History of the Communist Party, Soviet Union, Bolsheviks. Bro, I'm going to need something a little more concise than this, I think, bud. Like, I'm going to need something a little more concise. I'm going to need you to really, really point. Like, I'm not going through these documents. You understand? Like, I'm just not, you know? Like, come on, my man. Help a brother out. Give me which link should I use, and then give me like a paragraph. Like, give me where should I begin? Like, what page? Like come on. I think that this is great, though. What a great conversation. And of course, handsome boy, this leads to the Canadian Parliament Speaker resigning after calling the Ukrainian Nazi veteran a hero. Although, if you actually see him reading the document, like reading the paper, when he says Ukrainian soldier that fought in World War II against the Russians, there's this pause and like an eyebrow raise. That's very clear that he's just like, what did I just read? What? John needs some Subway Surfers and text-to-speech. I don't know what that is, Midnight Rose, but I'll say yes. Handsome boy. Oh yeah, Bob Ray is making excuses as well. I saw that. It was brutal. It's like so brutal. Like these guys have completely lost the thread. They've completely lost the thread. King Ophel says, but yeah, Zelensky is doing a standing ovation. Good point. Good point. Isn't this look, okay, King? I'm gonna like, isn't Zelensky a Jew? So what? Who cares? I don't understand why anybody thinks this is a defense. Why anybody ever thought at any point that Zelensky being a Jew is a defense of any sort. During World War II, there were Jewish Nazis. There's a Jewish Nazi. It makes him more reprehensible. It's not a defense. It's not the defense you think it is. Stop using it. Stop thinking this way. This guy is a Nazi and a Nazi collaborator, at the very least a Nazi collaborator. He works very closely with Nazis. We have lots of footage of him shaking hands and saying nice things to Nazis and about Nazis, right? The idea that Zelensky can't possibly be shaking hands with Nazis and espousing Nazi ideology and be fighting on the side of Nazis because he was born a Jew. Who cares? And you know what the Nazis' position is? Well, he's working with us. We're fine. Like, that's it. So this cartoonish idea, this like really low level idea that says Zelensky cannot be a Nazi because Jews cannot be Nazis. Yes, they can. There are Jews that existed in World War II that were Nazis, right? Goodbye with this idea. Farewell. I hope you're doing well too, President Putin. Thank God President Putin IV is here. I would be lost in the weeds if you weren't here, President Putin IV. I think the case can be made of Zelensky that when he came into office, he was actually genuine, that he came into office believing that he could put an end to the Donbass war, that is what he ran on. He ran on the platform of ending the Donbass war, and he actually won. And I think you can make the case and make the defense that for a short period of time, about a year, maybe even 2, he was actually trying to do that. But then there came a turning point where it became clear that wasn't going to happen, that the Nazis in his country were not responding to him and not ending the war because they were responding to NATO and not him. And so I think Zelensky turned a corner and basically started to say, well, I might as well make as much money as I possibly can. And I think that's where he's at, right? That he's just like, okay, well, here we are, countries overrun and taken over by Nazis. If I try to stop the Nazis, they are going to shoot me. So I might as well just get as much money as I possibly can and just try to get out of this alive and rich. And I think that's basically where he's at, right? Yeah, when he went to the front and they pointed at the tree, yeah. Like, but he did go to the front. Like, he didn't come to power and immediately start saying, let's get these Russians and let's do that kind of stuff. I think, and so I think you can make the case that he genuinely did try. It's just that he is one man, and that the office of the presidency of Ukraine doesn't have more power than NATO. Like, I think that's just very straightforward. So I think that's where he's at. It doesn't make him a good person or anything, but just you do kind of have to respect the bind that he finds himself in. And then also I think he's being played by NATO. Like, I think he is being played by NATO, that he's being told that we're ride or die with you and this is going to happen and all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, America will betray him and the Ukrainians, because that's how America rolls, baby. That's America has always rolled. Yeah, he had no chance. Canada was training the Nazis in 2014 before the Maidan coup. Yeah, exactly, right? Like it's like Zelensky's got political power, but he doesn't actually have military power. And your military is overrun by Nazis, right? Like, it's kind of the end game, right? Like, if your military is not going to respond to if the military doesn't respond to the political power structure, right? If the military exists for its own accord and to do its own things for its own reasons, then it's a military dictatorship, and it's run by the military. And that's essentially what is happening in Ukraine, is that it is run by the military, and that Zelensky has just come to understand that it's better to play ball, right? Because the alternative is to get shot. Yeah, Zelensky was kind of the perfect identity for NATO to sell this war. I heard from Danny Haifeng they plan to keep this going until 2030 and on. Yeah. Okay. We got the tweet. We got the tweets. Oh no, dude, this is a pitchbot, CBC pitchbot satire, right there. Chrystia Freeland's office said every MP walking back commemoration of Waffen SS volunteer Yaroslav Honka has fallen for Russian propaganda. That's a pitchbot. You fell for it. Gotcha. Yeah, dude, that's fine. Everybody, we've all gotten hit for that, and it's tough to tell now, isn't it? It's tough. It's tough to tell if it's satire or not. Do we live in a world? I feel like this whole thing is just a big joke. I feel like everything is just satire at this point. That's why anytime I read any headline, I really got like one of the things that really gets me into this like know your source, defend your source kind of thing is like is exactly this. That sometimes these sites will put stuff up and you're like, that is extremely believable. You're just like, I would definitely, if that was true, I would believe it. And so it's too close. There's like satire is dead, right? You got to just like, you got to really vet your sources. You got to really vet your sources for that, for if for no other reason. Yeah, and I also posted that exact tweet earlier. Yeah, it's fine, dude. Don't even worry about it, man. We all hit this shit. This is normal as it gets. I'm not even going to make fun of you over it. I'm not even going to make fun of you over it. I'm just going to be like, yeah, it happened. The thing that happens to all of us happened to you. You just happened to be the shamal. Twin Tower Enjoyer. TheBeaverton.com, House of Commons Speaker, relieved Japanese veteran who fought against China couldn't make it. Yeah, man. Like, you don't even need to try to write these headlines anymore, right? You don't even need to try. It's just fucking ridiculous what's going on. I don't know why it's doing this. Twitch is not actually scrolling all the way down, so whenever somebody posts, I gotta scroll down to the post. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous! I have concerns. Handsome Boy writes, before he became a president, he promised he's going to deal with the devil to stop the war in Donbass. That's why Ukrainian people voted for Zelensky. One of the promises, of course, right now we see the opposite. Yeah. Big surprise, a politician saying he's going to do one thing and then another thing happening, right? Big surprise. I mean, to Zelensky's credit, right? He is just a dude, right? Like he is just a guy. And that it's nice to know that the people of Ukraine were like, yeah, we're going to vote for the guy that's saying he wants to end the war, right? You want to end the war? We'll vote for you. Okay. He wasn't able to? Okay. Like Zelensky can't just like call down the hammer of Thor. You know, he can't just, like, smash the ground and the Nazis suddenly sail off to Valhalla or something, right? So I just think he's just making the best of a shitty situation. Do I really believe he's a Nazi? Big question mark. I definitely think that he's just he's capitulated. Like, that's definitely true. That he's basically just like, well, place is overrun by Nazis, and the Nazis are the ones that have the weapons, and the Nazis are doing what they want. So, when in Rome, you know, that's kind of how I view him. Although he has said some pretty crazy shit. Like, he wants to turn Ukraine into a new Israel. Like, that was pretty crazy. That's a pretty crazy thing to say. It's leading up to an elaborate April Fool's prank where every major government building in the West starts flying Nazi flags. Oh yeah, if you pay attention, and because I run this site, people send me information on these sorts of things. So anytime there's like a Jewish holiday of any sort, so Hanukkah is a good one. The New York Times, their crossword puzzle will suddenly be shaped like a swastika. Like that happens. Let me see if I can find it. New York Times swastika crossword. And like the defense is always well, you know, it's only a matter of time. You do a million of these, right? Like you're eventually gonna hit, you know, that shape. And yeah, you know, we apologize and oh sorry, but it happened. It happened literally on like one of the the first day of Hanukkah. So on the first day of Hanukkah, my true Lord gave to me. Social media shared their outrage, published the first day of Hanukkah, appeared to look like the Nazi party symbol. Some argued the pattern was just a coincidence. And if you look at, are they actually going to show you the thing? Yeah, there it is. Like first day of Hanukkah, pretty clear, pretty obvious, right? Yeah, there's no way this actually made it to print. First day of Hanukkah. Like, tough to make the case that this isn't intentional. Right? Tough to make the case. I don't believe you. Like if you're going to tell me that, oh well, you know, the spiral pattern is pretty normal in crosswords, and it was only, you know, it's only really a matter of time before, you know, a swastika pops up every so often, you know, and we just missed it. It just slipped through, you know, our editor's busy, and so it just slipped through on the first day of Hanukkah, very specific Jewish holiday, you know, these series of events in a system that's specifically vetted in order to ensure that this very thing doesn't happen. Well, it happened on at the one time that it definitely should not have. Get the fuck right out of here. I do not believe you. Like, they put a swastika in this crossword puzzle on the first day of Hanukkah on purpose, for sure. Like, you cannot convince me otherwise. Just really go through the steps it would take for this to happen. And like, there's a person at the New York Times whose job is to look at this stuff. And probably one of the first things that they do is any Nazi swastikas. Like straight up, just like, does it look like a swastika? Any offensive symbols or symbolism in this, right? Probably the first thing that they'd look at. And any idiot would be like, nah, it's a swastika. So I've been saying for a long time. And that's why when this happened, I was like, they did it on purpose. I do not buy this like they're a bunch of dummies argument. I do not buy this like oversight, oopsie-doo. I don't buy it at all. This is intentional. They knew what they were doing, and they did it for a reason. And to believe anything else, in my opinion, is childish. Like you are living in a childish dream world, filled with fairies and rainbows, right? That's a Buddhist symbol. Yeah, exactly. Classic liberalism. Like, if the Buddhists would like to have the swastika rehabilitated, then it's going to be the Buddhists themselves that need to do it, right? If a non-Buddhist group of people are using that symbol, they are Nazis. Straight up. There is only one group of people. There's only one group of people who are allowed to walk around with a swastika and say, this is our heritage, this is what we are rehabilitating the symbol. And that's the Buddhists and the Hindu, right? Period. Anybody else doing it, you're a Nazi. That's why when the Falun Gong shit started happening, if you guys don't know about Falun Gong, here's another good one. There's an organization here in Canada by the name of Falun Gong. They were thrown out of China. That's their symbol. Here's their symbol. right? Thrown out of China. Can't imagine why, right? They're a racial purity cult. They believe their leader can turn invisible. They have like a Tai Chi practice that they do. And this dumbass Falun Gong bullshit. Yeah, completely normal, right? Absolutely, totally normal. We should definitely allow this to happen. But it's a Buddhist symbol. It's a Buddhist symbol. Absolutely, Buddhism. Yeah, right. Yeah, get the F out of here. Get the F out of here. Good opportunity to say like and share. And hey, subscribe. Subscribe while you're here. Why not? Hit the bells, hit the whistles, do the things. Tell people I exist. Give me money. I have a Patreon. You could donate to it. It would get you into the Discord. And hey, straight up, more importantly than that, because the money is, it's money. Tell people I exist. Tell your friends. Tell your wives. Tell your daughters. Tell your sons. Tell your uncles. Do you have that drunk uncle who always says the most conservative shit in the room, but he likes streamers? Then he's like, I like that Benny Shapiro kind of guy, right? Well, send him my way. Maybe spread the word. Spread the good word. Thoughts on Alberta opting out of CPP? Is this the beginning of the breakup of Canada? Well, let's take a look at it, man. I don't have my finger on every single pulse, especially what with Nazis walking around in the room. Alberta opting out of CPP. A new LifeWorks study commissioned by the Alberta government says the province could be entitled to take 3,000. Oh my God, come on, fucking John, you can do better. Do better. $334 billion, more than half of the assets in the Canada Pension Plan, were it to exit the national plan entirely and start its own fund. Can Alberta exit the CPP? So did they actually leave the CPP? Tuesday's newsletters, unintended consequences of leaving CPP. Alberta's leaving CPP could be politics, not a proper exercise in what's fair. So, okay, great. The Canada Pension Plan, right? Shady, good to see you. We all know what this is. This is them taking that money and putting it in their own pockets. That's it. Like, there is a reason why the largest, fastest growing cohort amongst the homeless are boomers, right? There's a reason why that's happening, and it is because of this kind of stuff that they want to pilfer the pensions. They don't care if it means abandoning a bunch of old people. They don't care. Alberta Pension Plan, a scary idea. Yeah. So that's more or less my thoughts. Like, will it continue the sort of fraying of Canada generally? Yeah. Yeah, pensions probably won't exist soon. That's right. Like, it's already happening. Like boomers are being thrown out into the streets. They're the largest, they're the fastest growing cohort, right? That's why I'm more or less of the opinion that we should be reaching out to boomers and being like, look, you guys are being abandoned. It's obvious. We can see you, right? And like, we probably shouldn't have that attitude of like, I told you so, as tempting as that is, right? We shouldn't have that attitude of like, well, fuck them, right? Like they've been telling us this whole time and now look, haha, they're getting what they deserve. Like they believed in what they were saying. Like they believed that what they were saying was true. They believed that the system, you just needed to work hard and the system was going to reward you for it. And that there were these systems in place that were going to ensure that you were going to be okay in your old age. And it was a lie. It was just not true. So these are the people that we should be reaching out to because they've been betrayed, right? Yeah, boomers are too stuck in their ways. There's a bit of that, yeah. I know boomers. I talk to boomers who agree with the things I say, and they basically say, yeah, you guys are just going to have to watch the die-off happen. Like, you're going to have to see the boomers die. Like, that's and I think there's some truth to that the boomers are going to have to die. Just to see any change happen because they don't care. Like, they just don't care. I had a conservative today requesting the admin of a Facebook group because he hates the content that I'm bringing over, exposing their grift. And in this specific video is about how conservatives are defending Russell Brand. Yeah, I mean, Russell Brand's just one of them. That's all. Like, he wants to be on the side of power. That's all. So much for free speech. Don't love conservative hypocrisy. And of course he did a red herring saying, but conservatives hate Epstein's and the list liberals. When you point out there were conservatives as well, like Trump, he was silent. I mean, there are some issues that I think there should just be a general consensus. Like Epstein, literally everybody should be like, yeah, that's a problem. Like, that's a problem. If you are going to stand in front of me and say that, like, no, they earned that island. They earned that island of children they could go and rape. I think there's something mentally wrong with you. And so I don't think that that's like a conservative liberal sort of position, frankly. It's just that, both of them are kind of quiet on it. They don't want to expose their owners any more than they have to. Yeah, boomers don't care. Their wealth is tied to the housing prices going up, and they know they won't be around for the climate catastrophe. Yeah, they're basically just biding their time, right? They're basically just sitting there being like, okay, well, we've got this house, and we're here, and I don't really want to deal with a catastrophe of any kind, and I don't want my life to be disrupted at all. So, I just want to be able to go and drink tea on the patio and tool about. That's it. Yeah, boomers have their home equity. They have more to lose than their chains, so of course they don't care. Yeah. Just Me writes, I'm a political orphan. No federal party is anti-war. They all support the NATO proxy war. I hope the NDP kick out WEF Puppet Jagmeet and elect an anti-war leader. They will not. This is why you can't support conservative or capitalist parties. You just can't support capitalist parties. That if you are joining a party and they are saying anything other than capitalism is a force that needs to go, it needs to go away. If they are not at the least anti-capitalist, right? So not necessarily communist or anarchist or any of that kind of stuff, but at least saying capitalism is a problem, it needs to be dealt with, then you just need to turn around and walk away. Like that really is the truth, and it is coming to be the time that we need to start voting for the guy with the boot on his head. Like it's over for capital, and it's going to continue being over for capital. And as I say that, there is a great article that I wanted to actually read. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah. This is from Yanis Varoufakis. 1 second. This just popped out. Give me 1 second. There we go. Just want to make sure that my thing is like, demand better. Good to see you. 22 people, only a few likes. Hit the like button. Do it. Hit the like button. Hit the thumbs up button. You can do it. I believe in you. You have the power. The power is yours, 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 yours. Capitalism is dead. Now we have something much worse. Yanis Varoufakis on extremism, Starmer, and the tyranny of big tech. What could be more delightful than a trip to Greece to meet Yanis Varoufakis, the charismatic left-wing firebrand who tried to stick it to the man, aka the IMF, the EU, and the entire global financial order. The mental imagery I have before the visit is roughly 2 parts Zorba the Greek to 1 part an episode of the BBC series Holiday from the Jill Durando era. Blue skies, blue sea, maybe some plates breaking in a jolly taverna. What I'm not expecting is a wall of flames rippling across a hillside next to the highway from the airport, and a plume of black smoke billowing across the carriageway. Because even a modernist villa on a hillside on the island of Aegina, a fast ferry ride from the port of Pius in the summer bolt hole of chic Athenians, is not the sanctuary from the modern world that it might once have been. The house is where Varoufakis and his wife, landscape artist Danae Stratow, live, year-round since the pandemic. But in August 2023, at the end of a summer of heat waves, and extreme weather conditions across the world, it feels more than a little apocalyptic. The sun is a dim orange orb, struggling to shine through a haze of smoke, while a shower of fine ash falls invisibly from the sky. A month later, 2 years' worth of rain will fall in a single day in northern Greece, causing a biblical deluge and never-before-seen levels of flooding. That the end of the world feels just a little bit nearer here than it does on some places may not be coincidental to Varoufakis having written a new book called Techno-Feudalism: What Killed Capitalism? Nor that the book comes to the conclusion that capitalism has been replaced with something even worse. Not the glorious socialist revolution that his hero Marx foresaw, nor some new mutation of capitalism such as the one detailed by Shoshana Zuboff in her surprise 2019 bestseller, The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. We're now in servitude, Varoufakis argues, to the fiefdoms of our new global masters, Lord Zuckerberg of Facelandia and Sir Musk of the rotten borough of X. When I arrive by taxi at the bottom of the dirt track up to his house, Varoufakis is there to meet me, folded inside a zippy red Mini. I'm usually on my motorbike, he says, and describes in his pristine commute at speed via land and sea that gets him to the Greek parliament in just over an hour. It should also be mentioned that the motorbike and leather jacket didn't hurt his image as a lefty bad boy, taking on the gray men of global capitalism. To put Varoufakis into context, he was the Greek equivalent of John McDonnell, a close friend, if Jeremy Corbyn, another close friend, had actually been voted into power, and if John McDonnell had, in this scenario, been played by George Clooney. Wow, she's in love with this guy. Because in 2015, at the height of the Greek debt crisis, Varoufakis was catapulted from academic obscurity to Minister of Finance. He said, loudly and repeatedly, that the punitive terms the banks wanted to impose on Greece would lead to catastrophic austerity. A majority of Greeks voted to back him, and for a short time his strategy of simply refusing to agree to the IMF and EU's terms led to a tense standoff, right until the moment the Prime Minister, Alexis Tsipras, the man who appointed him, accepted them. Either the only possible action to prevent the country going bankrupt, or a treacherous betrayal, depending on who you choose to believe. The Financial Times labeled Varoufakis the most irritating man in the room during the negotiations, so it's not exactly a surprise to learn that techno-feudalism is a polemic, a controversialist's take, and although in 2023 there's nothing particularly novel or special about hating on tech, hating on Elon Musk is the only rational response to the situation in which we found ourselves. Nevertheless, techno-feudalism feels like an important new book. It's a big-picture hypothesis rooted in a historical account of how capitalism came into being that describes what is happening in terms of an epochal, once-in-a-millennium shift. In some ways, it's a relief to have a politician, any politician, talking about this stuff. Because in Varoufakis' telling, this isn't just new technology. This is the world grappling with an entirely new economic system, and therefore, political power. Imagine the following scene, straight out of the science fiction storybook, he writes. You are beamed into a town full of people going about their business, trading in gadgets, clothes, shoes, books, songs, games, and movies. At first, everything looks normal, until you begin to notice something odd. It turns out all the shops, indeed every building, belongs to a chap called Jeff. What's more, everyone walks down different streets and sees different stores, because everything is intermediated by his algorithm, an algorithm that dances to Jeff's tune. It might look like a market, but Varoufakis says it's anything but. Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon, doesn't produce capital, he argues. He charges rent. which isn't capitalism, it's feudalism. And us, we're the serfs. Cloud serfs. So lacking in class consciousness that we don't even realize that the tweeting and posting that we're doing is actually building value in these companies. We're in his airy, open-plan living room, where his wife intermittently appears, offering water, coffee, and snacks, and shooting away a large, enthusiastically affectionate Labrador. He's totally in love with Giannis, she says. Strato and Varoufakis are a striking couple, as glamorous as their house, a cool, luminous space featuring poured concrete, and a big glass window overlooking a perfect rectangle of blue pool. I have no issues with luxury, he says at one point, which is just as well because the entire scene would give the Daily Mail a conniption, especially since Aegina seems to be Greece's equivalent of Martha's Vineyard, home to a highly networked artistic and political elite. Tispris, the former prime minister and Varoufakis' nemesis, used to live next door. He was on the next hill. There's a symbolically important ravine between us, he says. And although Strato is an accomplished artist, she's also cursed with some niche internet fame. At the height of Varoufakis' notoriety, a newspaper report claimed that she was the inspiration behind Pulp's hit song, Common People. She came from Greece. She had a thirst for knowledge, runs the first line. She studied sculpture at St. Martin's College, is the second. As Strato did, at the same time as Jarvis Cocker was there, though she gives me a no comment when I inevitably bring it up. It's the first thing you see when you Google my name, she says with irritation, and who knows where artists find their inspiration. Though Varoufakis seems to be enjoying my line of questioning, just a little too much. Techno-feudalism takes the form of a letter addressed to Varoufakis' recently deceased father, Giorgio, a Greek-Egyptian communist. He emigrated to Greece in 1940, in the middle of the country's civil war, and was sentenced to 5 years political re-education for refusing to denounce his communism. He rose to become chairman of Greece's biggest steel company. What Varoufakis valued most about him, he says in the book, was his father's ability to see the dual nature of things. Techno-feudalism is also partially a sequel to his previous book, Talking to My Daughter About the Economy, addressed to his then 11-year-old daughter, Xenia, in which he tried to answer the question of why there's so much inequality. Though even as he was writing it, he says, he felt an end-of-era qualms about the future prospects of capitalism. Even before it was published in 2017, I was feeling uneasy, he says in the first chapter of Techno-feudalism. Between finishing the manuscript and holding the published book in my hands, it felt as if it were the 1840s, and I was about to publish a book on feudalism, or even worse, like waiting for a book on Soviet central planning to see the light of day in late 1989. Was the entire concept of capitalism already out of date? He wondered. On the living room bookshelf, I spot a copy of Zucked, by businessman Roger McNamee, one of the first investors in Facebook, who is responsible for introducing Mark Zuckerberg to Sheryl Sandberg. That's a great book, says Varoufakis. I tell him that McNamee broadly agrees with his new ideas. I'd messaged a bunch of people to ask them what they would ask Varoufakis, including McNamee, and precised the book to him, that 2 pivotal events have transformed the global economy. 1, the privatization of the internet by America and China's big tech companies, and 2, Western governments and central banks' responses to the 2008 great financial crisis, when they unleashed a tidal wave of cash. I read him McNamee's reply. I buy the basic thesis. The U.S. kept interest rates at near zero from 2009 to 2022. This encouraged business models that promised world-changing outcomes, even if they were completely unrealistic, and are hostile to the public interest. For example, the gig economy, self-driving cars, crypto, metaverse, AI. This came at a time of no regulation of tech, and an accepted culture in business that said executives should maximize shareholder value at the expense of everything else. for example, democracy, public health, public safety. Had rates been at 5% in the past 14 years, I doubt very much that the gig economy, self-driving cars, crypto, metaverse, or AI would have gotten even 10% as much funding. It's pretty remarkable, I point out, that a Marxist and a venture capitalist have reached the same economic conclusions. But then there are more and more people outside politics trying to understand these new power structures. Shoshana Zuboff tells me that she explicitly rejects labels like techno-feudalism because technology is not the independent variable, nor are we feudal serfs. But she also says that the argument has some similarities to one of her last papers. In big tech, we face a totalizing power that in key respects disqualifies itself from being understood as capitalism, but rather as a wholly new form of governance by the few over the many. When I message Mariana Mazzucato, another charismatic and influential economist, but one who, unlike Varoufakis, has been embraced by governments and financial institutions, her response suggests that some of Varoufakis' ideas are not that new. She herself published on an adjacent concept, algorithmic rents, the idea that tech companies capture attention and resell it rather than create long-term value, in 2018. But perhaps traditional distinctions between left and right don't make sense anymore. The right, Varoufakis says, thinks of capitalism as like a natural system, a bit like the atmosphere, whereas the left think of themselves as people created by the universe in order to bring socialism over capitalism. I am telling you, you know what? You missed it. You missed it. Somebody killed capitalism. We have something worse. The early internet, he says, has given way to a privatized digital landscape in which gatekeepers charge rent. The people we think of as capitalists are just a vassal class now. If you're producing stuff now, you're done. You're finished. You cannot become the ruler of the world anymore. I wonder aloud if Varoufakis' big-picture approach stems from the fact that authoritarianism and the radical politics it produced in his own family is still near history in Greece. When he was 6, the secret police raided his house and arrested his father. Do you remember it? I asked. My God, yes. You don't forget a thing like that. For 2 weeks, we didn't know where he was. And when Varoufakis started becoming interested in politics, this was when a military junta still ruled Greece, and he was picked up by the police as a teenager. His parents were adamant. He was going to Britain. As well as being a passionate European and an internationalist, he's also an Anglophile who writes in English and studied at Essex University, where he joined the Communist Party of Great Britain. He is credited with persuading Jeremy Corbyn to remain in the referendum and campaigned around the country for it. And when I asked him what his advice would be to Keir Starmer, he says, he should try to do something he's incapable of, being honest. He should say, you know what? Brexit was a disaster. I want to bring back the UK into the EU. I'm not saying I'm going to do it anytime soon, but I'm going to work towards it. In the meantime, I will make Brexit work by doing A, B, C, and D. Coincidentally, Starmer said last week that he will seek to remake the deal with the EU for closer trade ties. He's now adopting austerity. There's no plans for the NHS to reverse the privatization from within. You know, this is the one thing I miss about Thatcher. She was a conviction politician, right? I say that the closest political analogies to Varoufakis in the UK might be Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage. What? He says. You're all anti-politicians, I say. The fact that you have a point is a source of sorrow, he says, because I'm anti-establishment. But it's true. You have made these people taking over the anti-establishment mantle in a way that is functional to the interests of the establishment. I see no difference between Orban, the Polish government, Trump, Farage, Johnson, Mussolini. It formed parts of his pitch to the EU at the height of the Greek debt crisis. I told Wolfgang Schäuble, the former German finance minister, We're both Democrats. We believe in the Enlightenment, I said. Give us austerity and we'll turn to fascism. And I very much fear that is turning out to be the case. The big winners in this year's Greek elections were the Spartans. They are the mutation of the Golden Dawn, a banned Greek neo-Nazi party, the Greek solution. You only have to hear the names, right? And Nikki or Victory. It's a particularly sore point because these parties' gains came at the expense of Varoufakis. After his stint as finance minister, he'd set up his own party, which won 9 seats in the 2019 election. This year, it lost them all. We don't really know what happened. We were polling at 21% among young people. The spring has gone out of his step, he admits. He's been holed up in Aegina since, pondering his next move. Still, even with the ash raining from the skies, it's not a bad place to be. This is a bracing conversation, which includes half an hour on Russia and Ukraine, during which I politely disagree with everything he says. His views on the conflict are practically indistinguishable from Nigel Farage, rehearsing the same far-right meets far-left horseshoe rhetoric about doing a deal with Putin, and Crimea not really being Ukraine. But on the subject of techno-feudalism, I could listen to him all day. Xenia, his daughter, wanders in. Are you guys still going? I've had 3 naps since you've got here. A student in Australia, she's been taking her classes online from Aegina and has been up half the night. The breakdown of his relationship with his first wife, Australian academic Marguerite Pelos, and her decision to return to Australia with Xenia was, Varoufakis has written, one of the darkest periods of his life. Meeting Strato is what saved him from near oblivion. In techno-feudalism, Varoufakis retells the story of the Minotaur. It's a myth that he returns to often. In his prescription, the Minotaur is the global financial system. In the myth, the beast is eventually slain by an Athenian prince. This prince of Athens didn't manage to bring down capitalism, but as he and Strato walk me down to the taxi under an unnatural orange sunset, it strikes me that the beast may yet turn out to have mortally wounded itself, all on its own. That's a nice article. That article was just like a nice cup of tea. That's what that article was. That was just like a nice cup of tea right there. Just a lovely little balm. Boy, I could use a nice cup of tea right now, I tell you what. I more or less agree with the idea that this isn't actually capitalism anymore. And it hasn't really been capitalism since 2008. When the financial crisis happened, the capitalist solution to the financial crisis would be to let them fail. That the argument of too big to fail is an explicitly fascist argument. We got a fellow on Twitch. Cuckery is buckery. Well done, sir. Well done. Do you think it's funny how much money we launder through the Ukrainian war? I mean, I don't think it's funny. I just think it's true. We do launder an awful lot of money through the Ukraine war. And that's the whole thing, right? That's what this is all about at the end of the day. That it is just all about finding a new war and finding a new conflict to tax the people, get more money away, get more productivity away from the people who are producing it, and put it into my pockets. That's it. That's what it's all about. Just make sure that I make more money. It's about grinding up human lives, grinding up assets, grinding up the air and the water and the land into money. That's it. That's what it's all about. Why do they want to control us on such an evil level? Because they're psychopaths. I think it's pretty straightforward. Like, the system of capital is a system that rewards a specific competency, right? The capitalists have been very upfront about it, is that the system rewards competent people. And so what is competency in the system of capital? Well, it's the ability to exploit others and not feel bad about it. Or if you do feel bad about it, you can just cope with it. And so it's a system that rewards psychopaths. And so you shouldn't be surprised at all that the people who ascend this hierarchy, the people who ascend and are the most competent, are ruthless psychos. And I think once you understand this, once you actually understand that they are actually psychopathic, I am not being hyperbolic. My position is that the ruling class is psychopathic. Once you understand this, then you really begin to understand that they do things to hurt us because it gives them pleasure. Once you actually understand that the things that they do, they will do things that are crazy and evil because they know they'll get away with it. And just the thought of getting away with it makes them happy. Here's a great example. That's Chrystia Freeland right there. Chrystia Freeland is of Ukrainian descent. Her grandfather was a Nazi collaborator who worked with the Nazis during World War II. And here she is applauding behind Zelensky, a Nazi who fought against the Russians, a Ukrainian Nazi who fought against the Russians in World War II. Look at how happy she is. Look at how happy she is. She's over the moon about it. Because she knows it's happening and she knows she's getting away with it and she knows she will get away with it. Because she's a fucking psycho. Do you think most people are like that? Just not in a position to be like that? No. I think that most people are not in fact like that. That whenever you see whenever you actually see studies or evidence or anything like this, what you have in general broad terms is 30% of the society being on this fairly dark side of the spectrum, going towards Nazism and fascism. 30% of the society on the other side being towards egalitarianism and all of that. And then 30% basically just doing what they're told. And so what that means is that you end up with situations where 30% of the society will destroy another 30% of the society, while another third watches it happen. And so when you have that kind of dynamic in the human experience, the question isn't one of individualism. It isn't a question of human nature even. It's a question of what does your system reward, right? Because humans are capable of doing incredibly bleak and evil things, but they're also capable of doing really wondrous and amazing things, right? We are capable of all things on the spectrum. That when the defenders of capitalism say that capitalism is human nature, i.e. selfishness is human nature, which is what they mean, they are technically correct, but they are lying through omission, right? Not surprising that the defenders of capitalism would be deceitful, because they're omitting that what is also part of human nature is love, compassion, empathy, and egalitarianism. And and so the system of capital very explicitly rewards psychotic behavior, which is why I don't argue against individuals. I argue against the system of capital. And I don't, and while I may call for certain people to be arrested and incarcerated, it is, at the end of the day, to see a systemic change happen in the society. Do you think they'll figure out how to make robots control us one day? Yeah, they'll try. Like, what are you talking about? They'll figure out. Every single time you pay, what do? You pull out a piece of plastic, right? You pull out a piece of plastic, and you go beep against a machine. You're already controlled by a machine, man. Like, you're already controlled by a robot. Really. You go to a place of employment. You do a shitty job that you probably hate. They put dollars in your bank account, right? Wherever that is. They give you a little card, and they say this little card gives you access to the funny numbers that exist in your bank account. And when you want to go eat or pay your rent, you go beep against the little machine. The machines have already taken you over, my man. Vladimir Putin making the jump. Good to see you, my man. Yeah, if I wanted to absolutely see the overexploitation instead of cope with it, does that make me a communist? Yeah. Could we build coalitions with capitalist voters against techno-feudalism? Are the libcons tech feud parties? I could see this argument working. I don't think allying with liberals at the moment is a good idea. Just for clear reasons that are very obvious. Like, I just think it's a hard pass for me. Like, hey, bro, do you want to go talk to those liberals about the society? No. I don't need a bunch of Nazi collaborators in my conversation. No, thanks. Bye. Disinterested. Hard pass. The Australian billionaire said recently he wants to hurt the workers and take unemployment to 50%. They are psychopaths. Oh, yeah. I'm actually building... Nice. I'm actually building like a list. And anytime I see a meme or something that is a quote of these guys revealing how psychotic they are, and this is the one you're talking about, right? Property developer and CEO Tim Gurner. We need to see unemployment rise. Unemployment has to jump 50% in my view. We need to see pain in the economy. We need to remind people that they work for the employer, not the other way around. This person is a psychopath, right? Charlie Munger, less than optimistic advice. I think the best road ahead to human happiness is to expect less. There's class warfare, all right, but it's my class, the rich class, that's making war, and we're winning. Warren Buffett. These people are psychopaths, and they should be treated as such. That you don't become a billionaire by being a good person. It doesn't exist. Cuckery asks, I mean, like, will we have to be in the house by 8 p.m. or a robot has permission to shoot us and stuff like that? If it escalates to that, like that, then we're in a civil war. Like, the ruling class would much prefer compliance. They would much prefer it to just be, everybody just go about your business and everything's completely fine. That if they have to be enacting like an 8 p.m. curfew and have robots in the streets and all this kind of stuff, like, then we're in a civil war. Like who's going to comply to that? Who's just going to be like, yeah, it's normal, 8 p.m., it's over. 8 p.m. curfew or the robots come. Like, I just don't think it works out. Yeah, if they cut down on labor, shouldn't prices drop as well? Like, say a Big Mac at McDonald's is $8 right now, and instead of 10 workers a shift, they have 5 now. Shouldn't it cost $3 now? Yeah, it doesn't work that way, my man. Those are called prophets, and they go into the hands of the psychopath class. Bread cultist, John, do you acknowledge the empirical fact that trans people are superior? I mean, they have to be superior, right? They got two things going on. They're double, right? What an interesting experience that must be. The trans experience must be a very interesting one. Why is our society so wound up about it? Like, why? I understand somebody being like, a boy that wants to be a girl that wants to be a boy. What kind of hell ridiculous bullshit am I hearing right now? Goddamn, a boy's a boy and a girl's a girl, and I think you can take a look at the parts and see what's going on down there. You don't need to be changing any of that kind of stuff. God, if God made you one way, then you're the way God made you. Like, all that, I'm just like, yeah, I get that exists and that person exists. But the idea that guy would then go, and that's why I'm going to vote for Mr. Trump. Because Mr. Trump's going to put in the law that says a boy is a boy and a girl is a girl. Like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Get the fuck out of here. You're voting this way? This is something you're voting over? You fucking losers. Like, your society is in an economic crisis. You're constantly going to war 100% of the time. Wages have completely stagnated. The housing market's out of control. But the thing that swings my vote is that a girl's a girl and a boy's a boy, and that's the way God made them. That's what I care about. That's what I care about. I'm a serious person, very intelligent. Cotton writes, speaking of collecting rents, the CEO of the Unity game engine suggested that video game producers pay Unity 20 cents per install of any title using the Unity engine. That isn't productive. Yeah, it's created a bit of a shitstorm. It's created a bit of a tizzy, let's call it, a bit of a row, a tiff. It is, again, as always, as it will always be with capitalism forever, that capitalism ruins everything. That it doesn't matter if every so often something good comes out of capitalism. The capitalists will do everything they can to ruin it, right? And at some point you got to start to think like that they are doing it on purpose. Like, there's so many cool things that we could be doing. There's so many cool, radical, neat, awesome things that we could be doing, and instead we're just like, planned obsolescence. Planned obsolescence is the best. Yeah, the ruling class would rather discipline people through debts and rents. Yeah. Eric writes, fun fact about the Bible. They only view gender as everything male, and woman is simply an imperfect man because she doesn't have a penis, which is why she deserves to be at the bottom of society. And there isn't a single concept of marriage in the Bible, but rather it is that a man taking a woman to have sex with her. Yep. Because the Bible is a documentation of a bunch of fucking barbarians. That's what it is. Like, I think the Bible's an important book, but we should be treating it for what it is. As a way for us to look at what previous humanity was like. To say, oh, we were fucking like in the desert acting like a bunch of dumbass monkeys. Holy shit, look at the dumbass monkey things that we were doing. And if you pick up the book and go, God told us to act like dumbass monkeys, then you're a dumbass monkey. Real straightforward. Yeah, what's very dangerous is that the right is using minorities like Muslims and new immigrants against LGBTQ. Yeah. Well, you get a lot of people who come in and they are coming from fairly far right societies, right? Societies that like, some of these places may literally be run by like theocracies, straight up. And so they're coming in and they are of the view that LGBTQ people are to be stoned. Like, if you have like a Ugandan, somebody coming in from Uganda, like, that's what the law is in Uganda, that you stone gay people to death. And it's just like, oh, so these people are here in the society, so we should use them that way. It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. All right, guys, I think I'm going to close this one down a little bit early. My voice is actually going out. I can really feel it. And I'm really, really freaking tired. I'm still a bit sick. So I'm going to close this one down a little early today. Always remember, guys, each and every one of you is a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes you'll never realize it. You'll just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel. Revolt. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.